See, the problem is that if you just took the word AI out of this, study, research, and master the latest solutions in your field. Find the most knowledgeable people on your team who can help you become better. Time is the most valuable asset you have. Get involved in making the organization more efficient. If you just remove the word AI out of that stuff, that's what you should be doing anyway. So which one of these memos do we want to start with? I just want to do a little bit of discussion before we hop into this.
Do the Fiverr one.
I've always believed in radical candor and despise those who sugarcoat reality to avoid stating the unpleasant truth. You care enough about your friends and colleagues to tell them the truth because you want them to be able to understand it, grow, and succeed. So here is the unpleasant truth. AI is coming for your jobs. Heck, it's coming for my jobs. This is a wake-up call.
Feels like he's preparing us for war.
It feels like, well, I don't know how much I want to get myself in trouble here.
100%. Just go for it. We can always cut this out.
It feels like somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. As a CEO, I don't understand why he did this.
You think he's scared?
I think he doesn't know what's happening, which is fine, but you don't ever announce that as a CEO. It's just like AI is coming for your job. Heck, it's coming for my job too. Then, okay, goodbye, see ya. I'm gonna go join another company. It's like,
yeah.
Hello everyone. My name is Andrei. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Seldon.
I'm David. I'm still a product designer at Tebby.
And this is the Seldon Plan. And this week, we're gonna talk about AI, headcount,
and the workforce.
And heads will roll.
Yeah, heads will roll.
Heads will roll.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. This reminds me like a tactic in poker which never works. If you got somebody beat, betting too strongly will just scare them off, in which case you get no money.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. That's not what this is. The other one's worse. The other one is that you're trying to bluff somebody and you make such a crazy, insane bet that the only way that this happens is that you get called and lose. You will only get called by somebody who actually has a better hand and you will lose. And there's no reason to go bonkers on a bluff in such a way that happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
it's kind of like that's what this feels like. It's either a crazy bluff because he doesn't know what's really going on and he's going to get called, in which case he's going to lose, or it's
read the second part of the second part of the memo.
Are we all doomed? Not all of us. Great, thanks. That's useful. Not all of us, but those who will not wake up and understand the new reality fast are unfortunately doomed. What can we do? First of all, take a moment and let this sink in. Drink a glass of water. Scream hard in the front of the mirror if it helps you. Now relax. Panic hasn't solved problems for anyone. Neither has sending out a memo that causes panic has solved problems for anyone. Let's talk about what would help you become an exceptional talent in your field. Study, research, and master the latest AI solutions in your field, like whatever. Find the most knowledgeable people on your team who can help you become more familiar with the latest and greatest in AI. No, time is the most valuable asset we have. If you're working like it's 2024, you're doing it wrong. Become a prompt engineer. Jeez, becoming a prompt engineer is like the last thing you need to be doing. Google is dead. We still have lots of legacy companies that have been around for ages that haven't died.
I mean, maybe he's
Intel
talking about
being one of them right now.
Yeah, Google search might be changing,
I guess, but this whole thing is just like the boy who cried wolf kind of problem. Get involved in making the organization more efficient using AI. See, the problem is that if you just took the word AI out of this, if you just took the word, it's like study, research, and master the latest solutions in your field. Find the most knowledgeable people on your team who can help you become better.
Yeah.
Time is the most valuable asset you have. Get involved in making the organization more efficient. If you just remove the word AI out of that stuff, that's what you should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
Like that's how you get better anyway. AI is just a technology that so the thing is that people don't realize is that the more you know about a craft, the better you can make the AI do what you want it to do, even in the kind of dumb form that AI is in right now. AI is not in a good form yet. It's like way early. We're like watching Toy Story in 1988, a 3-minute snippet of all this crazy engine, where in 20 or 30 years, we'd have real time, Spider-Man 2 on a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Like AI is still back in 1988 Pixar Toy Story land. That's how long it has to go still. Like this kind of doomerism is weird.
Did they send memos about Microsoft Excel like this in the late 80s, early 90s? It's like
we didn't have the large scale internet. We had FidoNet.
Exactly.
Which was BBSs across a bunch of personal computers. And then we got the one from Duolingo. I've said this in Q&As and many meetings, but I want to make it official. Duolingo is going to be AI first. Betting on mobile made all the difference. We're making a similar call now, and it's time to platform shift is AI. AI isn't just a productivity boost. It helps us get closer to our mission. To teach well, we need to create a massive amount of content, and doing that manually doesn't scale. One of the best decisions we made recently was replacing a slow manual content creation process with one powered by AI. Without AI, it would have taken us decades to scale our content to more learners. We owe it to our learners to get them this content ASAP.
Yeah. So one thing they did is that they let go of 10% of their contractor translators.
Wow.
And they said the full-timers can stay, but only if they prove that they can create content faster with AI than AI by itself.
That's insane to me. We will be rolling out a few constructive constraints to help guide this shift. We'll gradually stop using contractors to do work that AI can handle. Okay. AI will be a part of what we look for in hiring. AI will be a part of what we evaluate in performance reviews. There's that thing again. The same thing that happened with Toby at Shopify. I think that's just a bad idea. I really think that's a super bad idea. Headcount will only be given if a team cannot automate more of their work. Most functions will have specific initiatives to fundamentally change how they work. This is the kind of stuff I don't like. I think leadership needs to figure out where the company is going.
Yeah.
Not how. That's the vision. Yeah. So the leadership needs to provide the vision. Then your middle managers and your high level people, like your principals and your senior directors and even some VPs, should be then saying, okay, if that's the vision, what's the strategy?
Yeah.
So we have a strategy now. There's lots of different strategies to go after that vision. When that is done, then you let the lower folks who actually have to do the work more tactically. They should be the ones who actually have a large say over tactically how they're going to get that strategy done.
Yeah.
And here, what you have is most functions will have specific initiatives to fundamentally change how they work. So the leadership is providing like this just proclamation. Things are changing. That's not a vision. That's just, you have to make specific initiatives to fundamentally change how you work. Well, like that, you can move sideways, you can move backwards, you can move, that doesn't tell anybody anything.
Of course, but don't you think that these AI initiatives started bottom up, just like any other new tool, new technology, new whatever at a company always starts bottom up. Someone's just playing around with it.
This doesn't feel like bottom up. these messages.
It feels like he's responding to something that might have happened in the company, and he now wants to kind of like level expectations.
Having gone through the first internet age, I was old enough to go through like the .com period.
Yeah,
this feels like the same thing. People are seeing all kinds of things and they're responding to that. They're not necessarily seeing it in their workforce. I don't know if Duolingo or if Fiverr or even Shopify are seeing it in their workforce specifically. I don't have any insider knowledge on that. But what we're seeing is lots of growth in terms of these companies making things. We're seeing lots of really cool demos. We're seeing lots of amazing things. In the same way that we saw a lot of that during the internet age.
Of course.
Like, oh, I can read an entire book online. Or, hey, I can stream a song. Or, hey, I can do all of my email without having to do this corporate inter-office thing. All these things are happening, and all the CEOs and leadership are seeing is like, oh, there's all this really amazing stuff out there. We have to do it. Yeah. And they're not providing any vision. They're just providing like, hey, we have to change. But they're not saying what kind of change they're looking for.
No, but I think this is kind of like tip of the iceberg, where you see that these big companies and their CEOs basically shouting on the internet like, hey, AI is coming. Yeah. But I think what you don't see is what's happening below the water surface level, which is at smaller companies and also at like bigger companies in at individual levels. People are already using AI and they're showing results that they feel like, hey, we need to get this under control, and therefore let's get a memo out that this is the new expectation of what we're trying to get
just so everybody knows, David is the nice one of the two of us, and I'm not. So he always has
the precursor.
He always has the positive take on how the world is operating, and I'm just too cynical. When you look at this memo, you see all this thing coming out. Luis is saying, okay, we'll be rolling out these constructive constraints to help you guide this, blah, blah, blah. And then the next paragraph immediately says, all of this said, Duolingo will remain a company that cares deeply about its employees. Really? You just like foisted a bunch of stuff on them.
That's the paragraph that his PR person just told him to add.
They should have put that at the very beginning and then frame everything from a vision point of view of like what that looks like. Because this whole document is a strategy document. This is not a vision document, in my opinion. This is a strategy. We're going to be AI first as a strategy. That's not a vision.
Do you think that, I don't know if Toby was the first, but do you think that Toby's memo led to a snowball effect of other CEOs thinking,
totally.
Oh, fuck, I also need to, sorry for the...
Totally. I just want to get your take on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and what you think about this trend. It's only been like, a couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months that we're starting to see this, but I'm just curious what your designer friends are saying, what you're seeing in the trenches. Like, how is this coming off?
Going back to Toby's memo, this is a first step, right? Like, we're not giving you more headcount unless, first solve your problems with AI. I think that's the first step. The second step, of course, will be that if there is people inside of the company that are proving that AI can be a force multiplier, can augment their work, can increase their productivity, whatever, those people will get the promotion, whatever that means. And people that are not able to do it, they will be let go.
So you're kind of a hiring manager at this point too.
Ish. Yeah.
Are you being asked, well, you don't have to reveal anything. If you were put in a situation as a Shopify, like let's say director of design or a part of a division, and this came down and you were in the midst of hiring or you're in the midst of doing all kinds of stuff, how would you react? What would you want to, what would you?
Well, I think in practice, what happens and what already is happening is that as a result of AI, certain processes are going faster.
Right.
Exploration, research. So if one part of the group is going faster, then the other group might not be going slower, but it feels like they're going very slow. So they become the bottleneck. And those people need to step up.
So are those people more, is that anybody in the team, or is it generally like the front-end developers, or is it the prototypers, or is it the design systems people, or what?
I don't necessarily think that it's a type of role. I think it's a type of person who is more, still feels that, you know, like your job is a craft and it only exists of craft. And like, I have to, you know, like be involved in every step. And I think if you don't embrace change, and I think history has shown this, then at some point you will get, there's younger people out there that might not have all the experience that you have, but they can excel learning with AI. And so they will be faster in some ways.
Right. So I think you and I would agree on that part. I think I tend to agree with your point of view is on that as well too. So the part of not hiring new people makes sense to me if you're trying to actually figure out what this means. The problem I have though is how would you judge the quality of the work versus the speed of the work once it starts coming into play? Are you seeing the quality of the work just being better?
In the age of AI?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it briefly, I think the last time, where you said, it reminds me of my studio days where I said, like, if I have 12 months of work, I can spend 11 on thinking what to design. And then the last month I would do the design. I think the quality of the work with AI, because you can do way more of that thinking about what to design with the help of AI, that means that the quality of that design work actually is better. I'm not saying that the craft, generally speaking, because there's just more thinking and more thought and research that has gone into that first part.
So my take on this, which I don't have any necessarily data to prove it yet, is that AI and AI-enabled tools and the nature of where we are technologically speaking has moved the floor from here to here. So the floor has gone up 100%. Mostly because we have more frameworks. People are using AI to use frameworks, and then AI is not using a framework in a kind of like haphazard way. It's using it in a very consistent, logical way. So that's how you get like the lovables and the vibe codings being able to like start up a server. They're using frameworks. They're using like, you know, all these packages and things that technologically speaking have come around in the past 20 years. So the floor's moved up, and the floor's moved up because of a combination of what I just said. But on top of that, I think that the AI is not making what I would call rookie mistakes that new people are making, or even like, you know, human beings make when they're stressed or they're rushed for time and stuff like that. So the floor's moved up. Yeah. But I don't know if that means that the quality is better. That just means that the floor is better, because the quality is to me the ceiling.
Well, the quality
needs to be as close to the ceiling as you can get.
The quality goes up if it frees up the time of the human to be actually a better judge of the work that comes out of it. Because I do feel that what AI does is that AI doesn't need rest.
Right.
Like you can just fire up 3 different, like with Claude
code.
You
can let it render overnight, or you can let it,
you just like run 3 processes at the same time. And
it's going to cost you a lot of money, but sure.
Again, that's another topic.
Yeah, that's another topic.
Yeah. So that means that whenever you're working with AI, if a conductor also has to play an instrument,
right?
Can he be at the conductor level as well as at the instrument level at the same time?
That way. Exactly. Yeah, so that kind of gets back to the larger point then. So you just used the word that I think is missing from all these memos and all the things that we're seeing people talk about: judgment. So like if a human is judging it, then I generally tend to agree that yes, this is a good thing. Now you have to have better people at their craft or at their job or function or whatever it is making those judgments. And that's what's missing from the conversation. There's an assumption that the AI is just better. And I'm just like, my premise is that no, it's moved the floor up. which is good. But if you still want the better judgment, you still have to have your top people working with it. And your top people have to then train your other folks to move up to the top tier as well. And the AI might make that a lot more possible. So where we get the heads roll in the headcount is like, okay, so let's say we have people are using AI. All these memos are happening. This is all happening for the world. Which again, I will say for us as a company at Seldon, great. Yeah. We're building AI tools, and that's what we want to hear. But what I fear is that it's gonna kind of jump the shark to some degree, and that's gonna do damage across the board. But let's talk about why people are doing these kinds of memos. Like, why do they believe they need to use AI or enforce AI or put AI forward in this realm? And I believe a lot of them think that the AI is good at making judgment calls.
Maybe.
Would you say that might be part of the problem that's going on?
But isn't that the problem we spoke about last time, that AI is over-promising at first, and then secondly, people are not aware of what AI actually is?
Right. So I think that's the latter, yes.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of both, because if you don't understand what it is and you hear, and all the marketing is talking about all the great stuff, and like the pictures, the images you see, it's like, oh, this is great work. Then if you don't invest the time in actually understanding what AI is, you come to the conclusion it is very good at all these things that it actually isn't.
Well, so this is the thing. It actually is good at a lot of things. The problem is that we're conflating stuff. And like these memos conflate this all the time. It's like the whole thing about taking your job, right? So the whole thing is like, so here's the unpleasant truth. AI is coming for your jobs. Heck, it's coming for my job. This is a wake-up call from Misha. To have an AI take a human job, you have to suppose or assume what the job is about for that to be rendered true. Either you're so cynical that the job is nothing but pixel pushing in our field, let's say. But if the job is about judgment, or a combination of pixel pushing and judgment, then you're claiming that the AI can do one, both, or both equally as well as a human can. And that's the part that I struggle with. Now, what I will say is AI, so the nature of intelligence, this is the whole thing about scientific community constantly naming things in ways that nobody understands, and even their own personal definitions are crazy, like space-time. It's like, who thought that term up? And it's like, why? all you're doing is making like quantum mechanics harder.
Sounds interesting.
It sounds interesting, but conceptually it screws everything up. Anyway, that's a different topic. So artificial intelligence. Let's just dig in this for a second, because you just started to do this. Let's start with the first word, intelligence. What do we believe intelligence is?
Intelligence is, I think, like rational, the capabilities of ratio, if that makes sense. It's like thinking, logic,
right,
pattern recognition.
Right. So one of the things I hear, like this is the Johns Hopkins medicine definition, like intelligence can be defined as the ability to solve complex problems or make decisions with outcomes benefiting the actor. So that's one way to define it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, there's different things there, but the large part about intelligence is like the ability to like acquire and apply knowledge, capacity for abstraction, logic, understanding. There's all kinds of things that intelligence is. The problem we have is that we have intelligence being defined in multiple ways and not very specifically in this field. And then we put the word artificial in front of it. So first thing is that for artificial intelligence to be there, we have to presume that the intelligence part is actually accurate. Therefore, we then have an artificial version of it. And this is the same problem we have like with sugar, right? We have sugar and then we have artificial sugar. Artificial sugar is not sugar, like by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's artificial.
It's artificial.
Yeah.
And we've now taken this artificial intelligence thing, we've conflated what intelligence means, put the word artificial in front of it, and then that term is now being used to replace human beings in some sense of the word. I find that to be obscenely crazy.
Yeah.
So I look at intelligence and I'm like, okay, well, what kind of intelligence are we talking about? Well, there's logical intelligence, there's like musical intelligence, there's emotional intelligence. Heck, there's physical intelligence. Like if you watch people playing pro sports, those people have control of their bodies in ways that are very specific. We're seeing AI, what we're seeing in AI with LLMs is what I would claim is logical intelligence. I don't see any emotional intelligence there. I don't see any kind of physical intelligence there. Now you have robotics that are using AIs that have like the kinetics and all that stuff going. That's a different kind of AI. And I think if you look at the way that they're building things, they're building things in unique ways. But I don't know why you would claim to replace people in a company unless the only thing that those people did was what I would call logic and pattern matching. Like if all the person did was logic and pattern matching, was just executing like drawing pixels based on what somebody told them. Yeah.
I mean,
that's great for AI.
I mean, devil's advocate here.
Okay.
in your career, haven't you been at companies where, in fact, this was the only thing that people were doing?
To that point, in fact, when I did, I made those people do other things.
Yeah, but you've seen it. I mean, you did, but like...
I've definitely seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. And I'm not going to name companies that I've worked at that were like this, but I immediately make those people do something else on top of that part alone. To that point.
So if that's the expectation of what they're doing to a large degree, then...
Right, so this gets at the point then. I think the jobs that are going to be coming for, at least in the first round, are the ones that are pure pattern matching. So when you look at like our industry, that are the people who are just drawing pixels and rectangles and stuff like that, not making the actual kind of UX decisions or the kind of decisions that you talked about in the last 2 episodes, like just the solving the point of what you're trying to fix for the person that you're designing for. Those jobs are going. Then you look at things like paralegals. Paralegals are large about pattern matching because they're just trying to find the data for the lawyers in all the old cases.
Did you know, by the way, that they enrolled a custom version of ChatGPT at PwC called Chat PwC, and it just like they rolled out to all of their employees, and I think it completely boosted their productivity because they had an internal ChatGPT just like allowing them to do tax research.
Right, so it's doing the data collection and data gathering, the things that are good at pattern matching, and exactly. I think people forget that what AI is doing, the LLM's doing, is really an exponential level of pattern matching. Like if we were playing chess, the LLM can dive like 1,000 steps ahead, way ahead, and figure out all these different things. When it comes back, it looks like, oh, this thing's alive, this thing's intelligent. It's like, no, it's just really doing a really good job of pattern matching. Oh, so it might. So, for example, in chemistry and science, it might be able to figure out new patterns, but can it judge those new patterns as being medically relevant? Is the question we don't know yet. To your point, then I think a human being judges. Oh, we haven't seen that. That is actually something we need to do, and that human being is going to be very high level at their craft or very high level at their profession. So the headcount thing to me is a weird discussion about this, because the first thing to do is you should only look at your headcount of the people who are actually doing repetitive tasks, the tasks that aren't providing super value. That AI will replace those.
Taste, decision making, and I think as a result of that, people will have to make more decisions.
Correct.
Yeah,
and you want your best people doing that.
Yeah,
where you need to up-level all the people up to that to a new level.
Yeah. The same. I was thinking about this analogy just now. Like the same with a dentist. I can imagine like. At least when I was a kid, the dentist would come in and would spend like 20 minutes and just like inspecting me. But at some point now, the dentist comes in for 2 minutes and reads your dossier and it makes a micro decision like 50 times in 5 minutes, and then just like blah, 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 and by the way, this and this and this and this, and then goes on to the next patient.
Yeah.
And I think that is also that's a kind of metaphor of where we're going to. It's like there's so much information that AI can pre-process for you, that you have to make those decisions like, okay, this looks great,
so to the point then, the heads will roll concept is the heads will roll on the jobs that technology has always replaced over long periods of time. We were mentioning farmers before the podcast. Like you used to have lots of people in the fields, tending the fields, et cetera. Now we have these big tractors and like 1 or 2 people can run the farm. Yeah, that kind of job went away, and it opened up other kinds of things. What's going to happen in this industry, the part that I don't like the way all these memos are freaking everybody out, is like the jobs that were always about pattern matching, that are just straightforward, those jobs will likely get replaced by AI. Those I can claim you can't, because those also are jobs that have very specific metrics, very specific measurements you can do. So that's also good for AI. But then to the point, is like saying that it's going to replace all people because the AI is intelligent and it's good as a person at judging. Well, if that's true, screw it. I think we should all just quit our jobs and go find an island and just kind of relax and chill and let the world go to hell, because that's what's going to happen. If we claim that AI is as smart as us as a human being, or is intelligent, or is human, then what the hell are we doing? This is all insane then. So if we say that AI is not going to replace human beings, that's why I believe it's not going to replace. To your point, I think judging is super critical. What does it look like going forward? And I think this gets at one of the articles that we were looking at, which is this augmentation or automation concept. And the automation concept, I do believe, happens, like I said, to the workers that are doing purely pattern matching style jobs. But I think where it's really cool is augmentation. That's where I find all this to be interesting and whatnot. So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Well, I think as you said, I think also both is true. Like some parts will be automated, some parts will be augmented. And I do believe that in order to let AI augment what you're doing, like the research that we're talking about, like you have to have great judgment. Like empathy is like fast decision making. One thing that we haven't really talked about, I think, is like a cognitive capacity, because AI is going to blast way more information at you.
Yeah.
And I think this is actually to benefit to the Gen Z TikTok generations. They have been, like their attention span has been already challenged by, like platforms like TikTok. The amount of information that they have to absorb, AI will do the same, right? There's going to be so much data that's going to be exposed to you, and you have to make decisions all the time. And one analogy that we talked about before the show is like the evolution of a F1 driver, where it used to be just like craft, like steering the heavy wheel, and now almost like an F1 car is a computer, and there's so much information coming at the driver during, before, and after the race, and it's about their mental capacity of like staying focused for 2.5 hours, making all these micro decisions, understanding,
or making them in split milliseconds.
Exactly. And I think AI will, again, to the dentist analogy that I just made, I think AI is going to push that as well. It's like, okay, you have to be faster at your decision making. You have to be faster at understanding what is important to make the best decision.
Yeah.
And have the mental capacity to do that for a prolonged time. So I think fitness, surprisingly, mental fitness, but then also physical fitness is becoming more and more important, because you have to be able to...
Well, I remember seeing an interview with like Lewis Hamilton talking about like if he gained 0.1 kilogram of weight, that had an impact on the data, on how the car behaved. It's like, or it was something crazy like that. Like every week he had to really be careful about his physical whole thing, because he had to be... The car and everything was tuned like very specific stuff, including and like how much weight he starts with versus how much he sweats off during the race, like that kind of stuff.
I mean, like,
which is crazy to me.
I was just thinking about like being like a Wall Street stockbroker in the 90s and the early aughts. That's like opening market, closing market. It's like like chaos, right? There's so much stuff you have to go through, and I think at Booking, at some point we talked about that working in a hyper-performant company is the same as like working in like a great performing sports team. It's about like the decision-making, where you used to have like an hour to come up with a decision. In sports, you have to make those decisions in a millisecond, and you have to also like communicate and collaborate with your teammates in a millisecond.
Yeah.
Because there's no time to just discuss like, hey, should I pass the ball to you, or should I maybe pass the ball to you?
Exactly. Well, let's do this. Let's just kind of end this whole segment with some useful information, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe we can give everybody some useful information. I'm going to claim, you can say if you agree with me or not. I'm going to claim that there are between automation and augmentation, that is definitely going to be a thing. Automation is going to occur, and AI is really going to land there really, really well for some people, for some companies and CEOs. The people in charge of companies need to be very clear about what jobs are up for automation and being automated out. In my opinion, that would be the humane thing to do, to give these people a time frame, because that is definitely happening. Like we didn't see that there, I don't know how much of a warning like McDonald's employees had that those kiosks were coming. Like those have been automating out people who are running the kitchens and stuff. Anyway, then there's augmentation, and to your point, judgment and craft and ability is going to be needed there highly. If you're in a job so automation is going to be things like code production. So pure code production, not solving so once you solve a problem, having to write out and repeat the code, that's the automated part. Solving the problem is the augmentation part. So if you're in a job where you're doing repetitive tasks week over week, you're finding yourself doing repetitive things, you should consider that might be a flag or a signal that you're in the automation bucket and you need to be careful. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
For everybody else, the memos that I'm seeing, it should be about augmentation. I don't think you should be using AI to use AI. What you should be doing is saying, okay, last year I had this one problem I was trying to solve on the product or whatever, and we did it this way and whatnot. I'm going to show my peers and the executives I'm going to solve the same problem or similar problem using AI, and the results going to be 10 times better. And it's going to be because I made the right judgment calls with the AI tools that helped me. If you do that, you're going to push the executives and all these companies to start using AI the way I'd like to see it, people using our tools, for example, which is this augmentation and a boost into helping people get into deeper problems, explorations across the board at a higher level, and the quality going through the roof. If that's what we're talking about, then I'm all for it. But if we're gonna pretend that people are going to be everything's automation, I think we're all screwed, and we're gonna miss the boat on lots of things. So that's my take is like, if you're in a job that you think is being patterned or has a bunch of automation ability, start to look otherwise. And if you're not in that bucket, you are in this decision making bucket and whatnot, you better start to find examples where you can show how the AI really boosts everything for what you're doing.
100%.
You agree with that?
Yeah.
That's our advice. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Add to that.
Twofold. I think one thing that I keep reminding myself, if I'm doing mundane work that I quite frankly just find boring and shitty to do, that's for me is a signal that I need to start thinking about how can I replace or automate this with AI. Because I think for me, naturally, whenever I have to do mundane work, that's naturally what I feel. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And that means that probably AI can help me do it better. Secondly, I think one of the things that in the augmentation part I like to stress out is that next to the skills that we just mentioned, like decision making, I think imagination is a very important one. Like I used to always think that, like, as a designer, one of your superpowers is you're able to imagine what a solution looks like.
Right.
And now with the help of AI, the distance between what you're imagining and if it's actually feasible is becoming the distance becoming smaller and smaller.
Yeah. So to that point, you should, if you're in the augmentation bucket to help improve your skills and go after things, you should be looking of ways to execute on
your imagination.
100%. Yeah. So in execution in the past was simple things like making a PowerPoint presentation or drawing something or whatever. In this case, it's more like making a full prototype or making various different prototypes or making entirely new versions of a product that couldn't be done before because there was no time and money for it.
And I think like the demo you showed about like the product card in Seldon very much addressed this. You're like, hey, there's a product card. What other product cards can I imagine? And then while you're imagining, almost the AI is, and I think if Seldon improves and it actually moves into the direction where I can just talk to it and it like executes as I speak. While I'm imagining, it's imagining and executing all these different variations of the component. And at the end, and while I'm talking, I decide like, okay, this is great, this isn't great, this is great. So I'm reflecting on my imagination, and as we go in a like blink of an eye, I've imagined and checked for feasibility. Yeah, everything that I've done.
That is. I was saying this I think in one of the podcasts or something, also a discussion earlier. What we're trying to do is unlock creativity. Yeah. I'm not looking to automate creativity with our tools and what this company is about. We're looking to unlock and boost your creativity. Yeah. If we're not doing that and we're just automating creativity, I just think that, again, I think that's a dystopian view. And a lot of the AI tools out there right now are automating everything to the point where I find that people are using that automation as the reason why you see these kind of memos coming out. That's a little bit too much. So if you're a designer or an engineer or whatever in these companies where they're doing these kinds of things, try not to react harshly to them. Although I know I would. My advice is to think about automation versus augmentation and find the buckets of things that you do or what's going on in your company, and see if your executives aren't willing to hear you out about this. The other cool thing about being a designer and doing what we do is that you have the tools yourself to make things happen. Go find the AI like you do. Go find new ways of using it and show the augmentation part, the judgment part, the creativity part is what actually matters, not the automation part. The automation part is just going to happen. We all know that. That's just easy.
Yeah, 100%. I have one question for you. That is, what we're currently seeing in the job industry, that companies are hiring more on the senior level, senior designers, because Senior designers most likely you like don't need the training, but can still get their hands dirty, which is very good for them, but it's also going to be a problem for what do you do in this age when you're more junior? You just came out of school, or you just became new to the profession. Like, how do you make sure that you still stand out and you can actually land a job? What would you advise?
So I think a good part of the answer is going to be what I always tell younger designers and junior designers and whatnot. Try to find a hobby outside of work that is creative. It doesn't have to actually be a hobby about the design job itself. The hobby can be gardening. It could be woodworking. It could be painting. It could be whatever you want. But you need to find a creative hobby where you can explore what's going on in your head and getting that into the world. So always be doing that. In the case of this stuff, if you're doing that hobby, find ways in that hobby that's very personal to you and seeing how AI can help you. That way you're not beholden to an executive, your manager, your team, or your project, or even the scope of the business goals in that. Because what generally tends to happen is if you're a younger designer who needs to grow and do things, if you can't grow at work, you need to grow on your own. And if you have your own hobby and project that's creative, that is one way you can grow on your own. If you also then introduce all this new technology that you're seeing at work into at home, where you are under a lot of pressure to do it a specific way. That's the one reason why I don't like some of these memos. They're being very strategic and tactical, which I don't think is the right thing to do. But if you can find a way to use that new technology, in this case AI, in your own hobbies, then you get a more playful spirit, and the things that you are more playful with as a human being tend to stick more. Now, it's not a guarantee that you're going to grow, but in my opinion, it's one of the best tactical, strategic things you can do as a young designer is to have that hobby.
So So what you're saying is that the benefit that you have as a junior designer is that you have the time.
Yep. And the energy.
And the energy as well to kind of broaden your skill set and maybe deepen your skill set at the same time, that a person on the job that has to deal with the stress and and
also making something that they might not have a lot of love for. They may be just doing, it may just be the job for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been lucky that I've been working, the products that I've worked on, I've always been very passionate about. So that's been just luck of the draw. But, I know a lot of designers who are working at places where it's just they have to solve this problem and it's 9 to 5-ish, even though they like their job, they love it to a certain degree, but it's not what they want to make themselves. Yeah. So if you grow making something you want to make yourself, you tend to learn a lot more, in my book. Yeah. And this is after education. This is if you don't do a boot camp, which I'm not sure are going to be very useful anyway going forward. And this is the thing you kind of do. You can be a content creator. You can be, you can write a sci-fi novel. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you use the technology that you're interested in, or the technology there in that way, I tend to find you will find your own solutions. You'll find unique ways of doing it, and it'll stick with you better.
Yeah. In that regard, do you feel that it's better for your career to be a generalist or a specialist? In this age of AI.
I've always believed in what people call as a T-shape, I guess, the approach, where you're a generalist in enough things. You have to be a generalist in enough things deep enough across the board, in my opinion, to do this at a higher level. The more broad you are as a generalist, the more up the level you can go in terms of a job function. The deep part is always controversial because if you do too much of that, you get stuck in that only. And what you really want to do is you kind of want to have multiple deep stems.
So we go from T-shape to an M shape.
It's not even, I don't know what kind of shape it is, but I think people need to basically drill down as far as they can, especially if you want to do this over 30, 40 years. This is me talking after 40 years. Whenever I get bored with something, I go to another thing. When I was early as a designer, it was a lot of typography. And then it became a lot about photography. Then it became a lot about other things. But then music was a thing for me, and playing poker, which is a lot of math and stats, and then building out blogs. And I mean, it's there's all these things you can dive deep to. The one I've gone really deep in over my entire career is the kind of design systems part, the coding of the thing and the design systems itself. That's just me. But I've always found I don't want to have one drill down, but you do need to have a broad sense. So I would try to get as much of a broad sense as you can as early as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think continuous learning. And I think to stress what we spoke about earlier, I think it's only becoming more and more important in the age of AI that you are flexible and adaptable to whatever is going to happen because everything is changing.
Exactly. Yeah. So on that note, let's call that a podcast. Don't forget, please check out Seldon.digital. That's the company that I am the CEO of. That's a horrible. I'm terribly at marketing my own self here. Don't forget to check out Seldon.digital. David and I are still reading your comments and looking for lots of questions. We have ideas for topics in the future, so please send them our way. You can follow us on all of our social media, follow the links and whatnot. And anything else you want to add to this, David?
No, I'm just wondering what people, if the homework assignment is like, what parts of your job do you think can be automated with AI, and what parts of your job do you think can be augmented by AI?
I think that's great. Yeah. If you could tell us what in the comments or just sending us emails and whatnot, what you think could be automated versus what you think could be augmented. And if that kind of framework or mental model helps, then let us know that too. We would love to know what you think, and if you think there's a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah. And if your CEO has dropped a memo that hasn't been public yet, and you can always send it to Andrei in his DMs.
Yeah, send it to me, and I will set the record straight.
Exactly.
No, don't do that. Please don't do that. All right. Cool. So until next time.
Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for coming.